August 13th, 1944, just before midnight. The roads south of Falaise are empty. A Canadian officer is driving a jeep to a divisional headquarters he knows. He has papers with him, not a copy, the original. Attack plan for the next morning. Start time, axis of advance, order of battle, phase objectives. He is carrying it because it is faster than telegraphing, because the route is short, because he drove it in daylight. But at night, every intersection looks the same. Somewhere between two unsigned junctions, he turns the wrong way. He does not notice immediately. The Jeep rolls on south, headlights on wet asphalt, the engine the only sound in the night. Then voices from the ditch, not English.
Don't move until they pass.
He has no time left for a decision. The headlights catch gray uniforms 3 meters from the bumper. The first shot is fired. What the Germans find on the body is not a personal document. It is General Guy Simon's complete attack plan for August 14th. Axis of advance, start time, order of battle, phase objectives. Every column route, every artillery line, everything a defender needs to know where to wait. SS Brigade Führer Kurt Meyer reads the document that same night. The 12th SS has roughly 500 combat-effective Panzer Grenadiers and 15 tanks left. What remains of 20,000 men who came to Normandy in June. What Meyer has is not enough to stop Simmons, but he now knows exactly where Simons intends to break through. He puts the document down. 500 Grenadiers, 15 tanks, 12 heavy 8.8 centimeter anti-tank guns, distributed along the expected axis of advance. Everything still available is now standing in the way. The attack plan Simons intends to execute tomorrow morning is no longer a secret. 5 days earlier, Simons had called off Operation Totalize. 9 kilometers gained, but Falaise still 16 kilometers away, and the 12th SS had stopped the second phase. Wayne Wood, 8.8 centimeter barrels, the remnant of a division that should on paper have been destroyed long ago. Why Falaise has to fall anyway? The pocket has 2 jaws. Patton is coming from the south. The Canadians must come from the north. As long as the line north of Falaise holds, the corridor stays open. And through that corridor, thousands of German soldiers are moving east every day, with tanks, with artillery, with the ability to keep fighting. Every day the corridor stays open is a day the Wehrmacht uses to turn a defeat into a catastrophe on the right side of the Seine instead of the wrong one. Simons draws one conclusion from Totalize, not the same thing twice. Totalize was complexity. 8 night columns, searchlights, artificial moonlight, radar beacons. The concept had worked through the first phase. Then daylight and coordination failures had broken the momentum. Tractable runs the other way. 2 large armored columns, daylight, forward movement through mass. The flanks are covered not by darkness, but by an artillery smokescreen. Simple, direct, brutal. Montgomery has an expectation. Falaise by midnight on August 14th, 12 hours for 16 kilometers. What Simons does not know, Meyer has his plan. August 14th, 1200 hours, 800 Lancaster and Halifax bombers of RAF Bomber Command hit the German positions along the axis of advance. Most of the bombs land on target, some do not. Parts of the 12th Canadian Field Artillery Regiment are standing in the carpet of bombs.
Hold the line!
65 Canadians and 42 Poles are killed by their own bombers.
We're almost there.
241 more are wounded. It is the second time in 7 days.
Get him to the medic! Where's the sergeant? Leave the gun! Everyone pull back now!
No contact between ground and air. The bombers cannot be called off.
Sunray to Siegel, do you read? Over. This is Sunray. Acknowledge this transmission. Over.
Then the columns move out. the 4th Canadian Armored Division on the western flank, the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division with the 2nd Armored Brigade on the eastern flank. The smoke screen sits left and right. It protects the flanks but cuts visibility. The tank commanders drive through white smoke into ground they cannot see. 4 kilometers south, the liaison is waiting. The river is narrow, but the banks are steep, and the crossing points are few. The 102nd Heavy SS Panzer Battalion has Tiger tanks positioned at every usable crossing. That is Meyer's real defensive line. Not the fields to the north, but the river itself. Anyone who does not cross the liaison does not reach Falaise. Sergeant Donald Fraser of the South Alberta Regiment sees the first Tiger as his Sherman slides down the embankment. The Tiger's gun traverses slowly, searching for the angle. Fraser shouts at his driver,
Advance!
"Drive! Do not stop!"
Neutral steering now!
The Sherman slides into the river, water over the hull side, the engine roaring under load. 30 meters of water, then gravel, then the far bank. The round hits the ground 2 meters behind his hull. The Tiger fired too late. Brigadier Leslie Booth, commanding the 4th Armored Brigade, crosses the river further west. His vehicle group comes under direct fire. 1 round. Booth is dead. The columns do not stop. No. What plays out over the next 2 hours at the liaison is not a coordinated crossing. It is dozens of individual decisions under fire. Which Ford holds the ground, which Tiger has, who in its sights, who waits, and who drives. The 102nd Battalion hits back, Tiger against Sherman, 8-1 in armor. But the Canadians come in numbers. For every Sherman that burns, 3 more drive through. The crossings are forced, one after another. By the end of the first day, the liaison is behind the Canadians. Falaise is still 10 kilometers away. Montgomery's timetable is 12 hours behind.
Meyer has won what he could win, time, but not enough.
August 15th, the bocage south of Falaise. The Royal Winnipeg Rifles push into Soulangy. The village sits on the main road to Falaise, held by mixed troops from the 89th Division and SS Panzer Grenadiers.
Take cover,
The attack runs into direct fire. 50% casualties in a single company.
The regiment pulls back.
The Canadian-Scottish Regiment goes around to the east, takes Hill 159 with tank support from the 1st Hussars. The road stays blocked. Meyer gives ground without withdrawing. Every unit ground down forces the Canadians to reorient. Every reorientation costs hours. What he is buying is time for the divisions in the forming pocket that are not yet cut off, that can still move east through the corridor. August 16th, the 2nd Canadian Infantry Division stands before Falaise. The city has no military value left for the Germans. They cannot hold it, and they know it. What they can do is drive up the price. Every house that has to be cleared costs time. Every hour the Canadians fight in the rubble is an hour. German units can use moving east through the corridor. Meyer has placed his remaining Panzer Grenadiers in the wreckage, not as a defense, but as a delay. It takes 2 days. On August 17th, Falaise is Canadian. The first major city of the Normandy campaign falls, not through a spectacular breakthrough, but through the slow bleeding out of the last resistance. Meyer is no longer in the city. The 12th SS on August 22nd counts 12,000 men of the 20,500 who entered Normandy in June. Almost no tanks, almost no artillery, but still a unit. Simons has Falaise. The northern jaw has gripped. The corridor between Falaise and Argentan is still open, and through it, the remnants of the German 7th Army and parts of the 5th Panzer Army are moving east. As long as that corridor stays open, men escape, experience escapes, command staffs escape. What gets out will fight again. What is needed now is not another attack from the north. It is a bolt, a point in the terrain from which the last open route can be controlled. General Stanislaw Maciek has divided his 1st Polish Armored Division into 3 combat groups, 1 armored regiment each, 1 infantry battalion each. He moves them 10 kilometers east of the main road, through ground that expects no large armored formations. While Meyer fights in Falaise, Maciek outflanks the 12th SS. On August 18th, Trun falls to Canadian forces. By the evening of August 19th, a Polish combat group is at the gates of Chambois. What Maciek sees on the map: a ridge northeast of Chambois, 262 meters above the Dives Valley, 2 peaks connected by a saddle. On the map, the ridge looks like a medieval mace. Maciek calls it Makzuga, Polish for war club. As a former mountain infantry officer, he knows what a ridge with a complete view of the valley below is worth. From Hill 262, every road, every sunken lane, every ford in the Dives Valley is visible. Artillery observers on that ridge can hit anything that tries to pass below. Whoever holds Hill 262 holds the last way out. That is the stakes. If the Poles take and hold the ridge, no German divisions escape with heavy equipment. If they fail, the corridor opens again, and an army saves itself behind the Seine. He sends combat group Zgorzelski onto the ridge, the 1st Armored Regiment, the 9th Infantry Battalion, a company of tank hunters. Hill 262 North is taken shortly after 1200 hours on August 19th. At the same time, combat group Koszutski meets soldiers of the American 359th Infantry Regiment in the valley below. A handshake in Chambois. The pocket is closed. During the night of August 19th to 20th, German units moving east cut the Polish combat groups on the ridge off from the rest of the Canadian lines. Zgorzelski and Koszutski find themselves surrounded. The decision? Hold. August 20th, just before dawn. Hill 262 North. Podpułkownik Władysław Zgorzelski is lying behind the turret of his Sherman looking west. The valley is still dark. He hears the vehicles before he sees them. Heavy tracks on wet ground, engines taking the gradient. At 0630, the first Panthers come out of the fog. 3, then 5, up the western slope. Zgorzelski has positioned his tank hunters on the ridge edges. They shoot downward at vehicles that have to attack uphill. The first Panther burns at 200 meters. The second turns away. The third gets to within 100 meters. Then a side shot goes through the hull armor. It stops. Hatch open. No movement. On the eastern side, infantry and half-tracks are coming simultaneously through the saddle between the 2 peaks. Hill 262 South is not occupied. The Polish had no strength for both peaks. Now, the Germans are coming through the gap. Zgorzelski pulls a company from the western edge and throws it east. The saddle holds. The western defense gets thinner. The artillery observers call fire onto the roads below. In the valley, a column of half-tracks and trucks backs up. One round in the middle blocks the road. Vehicles pull off into the fields, sink into the autumn soil. The jam grows. The ford at Moissy, 5 kilometers long and passable on foot, is under permanent fire. What happens down there will later be described with a single word: Moissy. By midday, Zgorzelski has lost 11 tanks. Ammunition for the tank hunters. Enough for hours. Contact with the Canadian lines. Cut. Air support. No reliable link. The attacks come in waves. Every wave is beaten back. Every wave costs more. On August 21st, shortly after midday, Canadian tanks of the 4th Armored Division reach the remnants of the Polish combat groups near Kudahar. 351 dead and wounded, 11 tanks lost, 2 days against 7 divisions, cut off without resupply. The pocket is closed. What is left inside? 50,000 prisoners, 10,000 dead, 200 tanks, 1,000 guns, 5,000 vehicles. What escaped without heavy equipment. Eisenhower walks through the ground 2 days after the closing and says afterward, that he saw scenes only Dante could describe. Operation Luttich drove the German panzer divisions west. Total Eyes brought the northern jaw to bear. Tractable pressed it shut. The Mgzuga held it. What Berlin registers? A disaster. Hitler relieves von Kluge on August 17th. Von Kluge takes cyanide on the drive back. His successor, Field Marshal Walter Model, takes command of an army group that in parts has ceased to exist. In the east, the Red Army completed Operation Bagration that same August. Army Group Center effectively destroyed, 300 kilometers of front gained. The Wehrmacht is fighting on two dying fronts at the same time. In the west, Patton's corps are already at the Seine. What remains of the German 7th Army and 5th Panzer Army is gathering behind the river. No tanks, no artillery, no reserves. Behind that lies the West Wall. The question in the autumn of 1944 is no longer whether the West will break. The question is where. What lies on the fields between Troon, Chambois, and Coudehard is the end of the Normandy campaign. 50,000 prisoners, 10,000 dead, horses, tanks, the entire equipment of two armies. What it means, what it contained, and what it leaves behind. That is the next episode. Next, the Falaise Pocket.